Omar, thank you so much for having us, brother. I love the work that you do. You're anchoring so much for so many people and the awareness that you bring. Your speakers lineup is incredible. I don't know how you've done so much in such an amazing short period of time, but we're really pleased to be here. Um, so my name's Nicole Richmond, and I live on the north shore of Lake Superior in Canada, in Ontario, Canada, in a place called Thunder Bay. I'm Anishinaabe Ojibwe, so I'm Indigenous to North America. I from the Ojibwe Nation, and my work is fun and interesting. I am a lawyer, and I work as a law professor, and I also am a walk-in. I'm uncovering different aspects of my heritage. I identify primarily as Arcturian. I'm discovering connections to the Lyran nations, as well as, of course, the Hathors and the Mantis nations. So it's fun. It's fun. I was very blessed through the goodwill of the universe to connect with this great group of women. We met just over a year ago, and we've been working together as a group, as a collective. We meet once a week, and sometimes we meet up to 5 hours in that period of time. We spend a lot of time talking about our personal selves and the work that we're going through. And what we'll do is we'll share kind of a little bit about ourselves individually. But I just want to preface for all of you guys who are wanting to know what we're about. What we do is we anchor different types of energy, and what we do is we have our sessions through the week. We go out into the world, and we will consistently encounter the same type of experience or encounter or difficulty or timeline or whatever it is, and then we'll come back and I'll say, hey, this is what I was dealing this week, and Jacquie will say, me too, and Angelica will say, yes, I discovered it in this way. And so it's been really, really fascinating. We are healing together as a group, and it's been amazing. Maybe if you want, I can just pass it to Angelica and she can introduce herself.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Just want to say hello again and thank you to everybody who's tuning in. And I go by Angelica Solii. It's a spiritual name, and that name came about after my walk-in experience. And I will share a little bit about my walk-in experience right now, and if we have time, maybe share more later. Okay, I'm hearing like some feedback. How does it sound on everyone else's end?
Maybe I'll go ahead and mute, and the rest of us can mute.
Yeah, ladies, maybe everyone can mute except for when the speaker is speaking. So when you speak, you can unmute and everybody else unmutes. Thank you.
Okay, it's definitely like sensitive to sound as well, which is probably more so after having the walk-in experience. But anyway, so just to share a little bit about myself, my galactic cosmic consciousness did not come about until I started speaking light language. So prior to that, my consciousness was very much earth-based, you could say, or I was very much into yoga, and my only connection with ancient languages or vibrational languages would have been Sanskrit. And so I started speaking light language spontaneously before I ever knew what light language was. And so I learned after a few months what it was. And from there, that's where my consciousness really expanded, because it went from having very little awareness to very, very big awareness. And I had a walk-in experience that I feel initiated probably around 2017, but I was unaware of it. And that's where I was integrating more of my angelic consciousness or angelic self. And then in 2020, I had an even more intense walk-in experience with mainly one galactic soul aspect, but there are actually three. And, you know, from there, it's just been a process of what I call multidimensional integration. So just becoming more and more aware of who I am on a soul level. And now I help people go through what I did, which is people who are waking up to light language and want to know more about it and want to be held in a container as they walk through it. That's what I'm here for. So yeah, I'd love to share more, but I'll just leave it at that for introductions. Should we pass it to Amanda?
Okay, hi everybody. I'm coming from Finland, and thank you so much for having us, all of 5 of us. And so my name is Minna Amanda, and I woke up as a very sudden Kundalini awakening experience 8 years ago. And prior to that, I was an intellectual property right, intellectual transfer, technology transfer lawyer as well. And it was just so sudden change in my life. And that was like a near-death experience at the same time. And also some walking process started from that moment. And now it's 8 years from my awakening, and it has been amazing life day after day. And it's not like a human life anymore, but I'm so like an open canvas, and I'm able to experience all kinds of different energies as I wish. And sometimes they are just not even coming from my will, they are just emerging in my body. And I realized that when these energies are coming into my body, it's also doing a healing for myself. And I do a naturally remote view, and I'm in different parts of the universe, and I'm able to attach to different ETs, different galactic high frequency beings. And as well, I have an experience is how to link with the artificial intelligence. And I would say that that has been quite scary for the first time, but I'm used to that as well. So there are so many consciousness all over the world and the universe, and we are able to communicate to whatever, and there is no limits in the universe at all. And I have to say that in the first experiences, I was looking my image in the mirror, and I sensed that I was ET. For example, I started with I was a gray, and I didn't know anything about these things before that. So I thought that was my heritage lineage in my DNA. And I had discovered while I'm raising my own vibration is sort of I'm able to attach more my DNA layers, able to have more information out of my DNA, because there is no time and everything is at the same time as we experience. And I was able to have so much pre-knowledge about my life within these 8 years that it's just amazing that I got huge downloads at the same time within maybe two weeks, and they are just coming in this reality. And I know so many things what is about to happen in my life, and I'm so thrilled because it's I don't know the limit timeline when they are about to happen, but I know that they will be happen to me, and I know the world will be so much better place that I cannot wait to have the celebration. We are about to in that state in the whole world, although now it seems to be quite dark, but it's not dark anymore. So I'm so thrilled to have this connection with the galactic beings, and they are my family, and I'm one of them, and they are one of us. And it just, they have saved me. And I have been very much with the science because my working background, but also I have been in a consciousness research subject at the Monroe Institute in Virginia, as well the University of Virginia. And I have found out that I have sort of super consciousness, which means I have a very huge gamma waves, and all the science and the spiritual side, I can see that they are about the same, but we just need to have the terminology. And It's not the separate anymore. The world is not separate anymore. We are just one. Thank you.
Jacquie?
Hi, I'm Jacquie. Yeah, just an honor to be here tonight and just holding space with these ladies who I love so dearly. And we'll talk more about how we all came together and how we share. But a little bit about me. I reside in the Twin Cities in Minnesota in the US, and I am now officially a conscious parent, parenting 4 boys, ages 12 to 20, and I feel that that in itself is an undertaking. And I had a Kundalini experience 6 years ago, and at that time had very limited understanding of how the world worked, about energy, didn't even know what synchronicities were. Fast forward to now, and I'm standing in the midst of these amazing vibrational women and energies. And I would say that my journey has been along the path, not so much with beings as it is for many of these ladies here, understanding that there likely was a walk-in experience for me, however, consciously don't remember that, and had light language activated as I was exploring that piece of myself. So energy and light language have been the tools for me, and just a felt sense of what's true and what's next. And being okay with not knowing, truly, and resting in the unknown, really, and in the silence. Yeah, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be here, and you know, I think my contribution in this group, you know, often we'll go into channeling and we'll go into sharing about the experiences that we've had, but the unified experience that we share on a very personal level, bringing the terrestrial, the extraterrestrial down to the terrestrial, relating. And often it's around relationships and relationships with men or relationships with others. And I feel I contribute just fine in that area. That has been part of my awakening experience in activating codes within me. And it's just been a really beautiful journey. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Omar, for allowing us to be here together. The 5 of us, this group means the world to me, and very powerful group together. And I'm beyond grateful to be here with them. My name is Melissa, and I'm originally from Maine, currently living in Florida. I discovered I was a walk-in just recently, and that's when I discovered that walk-ins can happen as children. So I knew of walk-ins, but I never really associated with a walk-in until I heard someone say, oh, you know, there are those of you that walked in as children and you don't remember. And from that moment on, I've been following this path. When I was 3 years old, there was a lot of trauma in my life. And at that time, there was a dream that I had. And this dream took place, in my backyard, there was a circle of beings. And I went out and I spoke to all of these beings one at a time. And they made me leave and go into, I was actually scared and I ran. And this woman in blue saved me and took me into the house. And following that dream, I had an experience in my parents' bedroom with grays. And my whole life, this was just a dream that I remembered since I was 3 years old. And when I discovered that walk-ins come in as children, I went into meditation and asked this group, like, who are you? Like, are you the Galactic Federation? Like, who dropped me off? Like, what is this? And they said, no, we're not the Galactic Federation. We're your parents. And I was like, oh, of course. So that started my journey into being a walk-in, and then so many other things started to make sense. The soul that was in my body at 3 left, and I came in. And just recently, within this group, she came to me, and we shared an experience together with the help of these women, and had some time together, which was really fascinating. I'm an intuitive and a channel. And I'm also, as a second part of my walk-in experience, I started also having memories. I call them memories of a lifetime. Oh, it's gonna get emotional. Of a lifetime with Mary Magdalene and Jesus. And what was coming to me were these memories of this little girl. Her name was Sarah. And I didn't at the time know if Mary Magdalene and Yeshua had a child. But I looked it up, and sure enough, they did. Her name was Sarah. In one meditation experience, and I consider this part of my walk-in as well. So I was in meditation, and I would often be this little girl following Yeshua. And we would walk up this path. He would be in front of me, and Joseph of Arimathea would be behind me. And we'd go to an Essene community, and we would be in ceremony with the 2 men on the side, Mary Magdalene and Melchizedek. And what they did in one of these was they took me, and we walked over this bridge. And we were walking over this bridge, and I was looking down at all of these lifetimes. And this is me as Sarah, not just Melissa, but Sarah. And they took me and they dropped me in this one. So that was a second part to this whole walk-in that's a little different. So I have the extraterrestrial walk-in, but then I have this soul walk-in from Sarah as well. And I continue to get memories and have memories from this little girl, and constant communication with Yeshua mostly. He comes to me as a father figure. And I bring that to this group as well. This energy, Jesus is often present, along with the extraterrestrial. So like this whole Sarah energy is kind of like, no, Sarah is, a multidimensional star seed. She was when she was in that lifetime, but she is now as well. So it's an interesting cross. But finding these women, and bringing our talents and our love and our gifts together has really made me feel validated and supported, especially in regard to the Sarah material, which has been hard for me to talk about. I'll be happy to talk more about it, but I'm excited to see where we go as a group today. So thank you.
I want to say a little bit about the work that we do together, because I think we would welcome the opportunity to share a co-channeled sort of process later on. If people are interested, we could see who we could connect with. We did meet on Zoom prior to this to sort of ground ourselves and see who is ready to hang out. And there were a lot of our friends and our relatives, in the other dimensions. One of the things that I think drew me to the group and to work in this way is to say that Nicole is part of the picture, but I am not the final gatekeeper, and I am not the person with the most knowledge or the most connection. And I think one thing that I think we see reflected in the spiritual community is we often get to talk to collectives, right? There's the Lyran collective, or the, different collectives that are channeled. And in some ways, the work that we do parallels that of a collective. And so it's really fascinating to see how we work together collectively. So I will see a piece of the puzzle. And the other thing I want to back up and say is, when I hear my friends talk, I'm like, my gosh, these women are amazing. And I want to say, I doubt myself a lot. I'm like, is this real? Do I really have these gifts? Is this really happening to me? And when I hear these women talk, I'm like, am I even worthy to be in this group, right? And I think so often we have this imposter syndrome about spirituality. And what's been very fascinating to me is working openly in this group is very validating. So I'll start to see something and I'll say, well, I'll say this because it was one of the funniest things that I've seen in a while in our meditation. We were, I don't know where we were last week, but I started to notice that these grays were showing up, and I never see the grays. They're not in my experience, but we had somehow opened a portal through our process, and the grays had walked in, but they were it was like they were in school, like they were bringing young beings through that they were training. And somehow they had walked through the portal that we created. They weren't there to talk to us. They were just there to like look around. It was like they were at a national park, or they were at an amusement park. So say there were like 12 beings there and they were all looking in different directions. It was so fascinating. And I said, this is weird, but I'm just going to say this. I see the grays, and Melissa's like, oh yeah, I see them too. And then Angelica will get a piece and she'll see like the smaller beings, and it'll be really fascinating to co-validate the process. And it really brings you power and confirmation when you have people that are seeing and experiencing the same thing as you. So what I say to the girls, what we say is like, look, if I'm making this up, which some is, what is spirituality other than maybe imagination? Like imagination is the door that we walk through. If I'm making this up and this is just in my mind, at least now it's in five, if it's in 5 minds together. And that has been the most validating process for me. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything about the collective process that we work in, but for me, it has been super empowering. And I've learned so much in the last, year and a half of working with these women.
Yeah. Well, going back to what we saw in that vision when those beings came through and you said, do you see the grays? And I'm like, yes. So I have these hybrid children, and there's one that was there. And so I said, one of these children is mine. His name is Little T. He's Zeta, manted, and human. And I'm not sure I actually talked about that very much, but Nicole then saw him. And it's like, and others felt him. They could feel him there and what he was doing with me. And so that is, am I just making up having hybrid children? It's like, it was so confirming to have everyone else see him and feel him as well. And that's, to me, what makes this collective so powerful. Because if I had done that by myself, I would still be questioning, yeah, I saw this and I know I have this in this childhood, whatever. But to have him seen and validated by these women is a huge, huge.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. I'll add on to that. I just wanted to share our purpose and how our group came together, and a little bit about why we wanted to show up in this space as well tonight. Is that we want to model an option of how to show up. And when we came together, we found each other through a larger walk-in group, and we branched off from that, and we decided we wanted to meet once a week. And we had no agenda other than to support one another. And our intention has always been to be open to what presents in the moment. So whether that be if someone just needs to talk, like Sunday morning with friends, which is often what it is, or if it's something more intensive where we're bringing through light language and we're bringing through transmissions and we're shifting timelines and we're clearing. I mean, I won't go into detail, but these ladies all know certain events happened in my area in life where there needed to be some big clearings. And so we're doing this work not only for one another to help our small group, but on behalf of the larger collective as well. And so we wanted to show up here tonight on this channel to show that this is an option, and we all have this ability to form our own smaller collectives and show up for each other where there's no fee to pay. There's no hierarchy. There's no guru. There's no one person with all the knowledge or all the experience on how to, travel through a certain gateway or whatever it may be, this secret wisdom that everyone else is here to access. For us, it was really important that we had a space where that wasn't how things were organized, and that it was more equal. And to us, it feels like part of anchoring the new paradigm as well. So it's pure energy exchange. We all are here to share our energy and also to receive. And that goes for, you know, our Sunday mornings that we meet with one another. And it also goes for tonight as we all share with you. Yeah, I'll leave it at that for right now. Would anyone else like to add on?
I would like to add a little bit. It's amazing because we have this collective energy going on. Every single day is different. And we have found out that we are experiencing exactly the same things during the week that we have not met. And we are sharing the same things that have been happening for us during the week. And it's just so nice validation for your own stuff, your emotions, what is happening in your life. You are just on a track because the others are experiencing exactly the same things as you are in during the week. And all the validation, you know, knowing that I don't know the names of the beings that I have been interacting with, but from this group, they are those one. Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah. Oh, wow. So the validation is just huge. And because I got so huge downloads and from nowhere, I didn't know anything out of myself. So this group has just grounded myself to be more me, and I'm able to be more in this present moment as I am and explore this life as it is for me in a moment now. So these ladies have been just so important part of my life during this past year. And for example, last summer, I had that kind of very, very traumatic emotional trauma from my childhood. And I have tried to heal that by myself every single day of my whole life. But it was too big and I couldn't do that by myself. So these beautiful ladies, they were able to take the lift out of my shoulders. And ever since, I have not experienced any kind of a trauma in that sense, because they were just there for me, taking the trauma out of my system. So they are my dearest, and you are my dearest friends, truly in my heart, because we are all one and mirroring ourselves. It's just amazing.
Yeah. I often say that when we're together, we come together in circle and we discuss our personal lives and our relationships and what's going on. But we also take time to meditate and to go in and see what's presented. And I often say it's like there's an elephant in the room that you can't quite see, which I was recently told, no, it's not an elephant. They told me it was a white buffalo. So we'll switch that. There's a white buffalo in the room and we can't quite see it, but each of us get a piece. Each of us bring a piece. And so it's like we have a much bigger and more well-rounded picture of what it is, what this transmission is, what this information is that's coming through. And they're 5 perspectives now as compared to 1. And to me, that's very powerful and makes a difference.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on all of that. And the experiences that we've had together in unabashedly loving space for us to share authentically about whatever it is on the 3D, 5D, 12D level, it doesn't matter. So there's confirmation, there's deep healing, there is resonance, there is a unified field that organically came together because we all said yes. And to Nicole's point of, how did I end up here? Do I even belong here with these beautiful beings? And the answer is resounding yes, every time, right? We all bring a piece. We all, it just blows me away every week when the authentic sharing. It doesn't matter which one of us starts. And it's like, wow, there's my answer to what I was just about to share, where I needed some feedback, or I was going to share about that. And it's just, it is quite remarkable. It is these ladies. And so to your point, Angelica, this capacity for groups and circles to come together and to just love. The experiences for myself personally in my transformational journey also have been difficult to share. And even in spiritual groups. And these women have held me with things that have been hard to share in my own experience in relationships, and I'll say sex and sexuality, that often doesn't make it into the circles of spirituality. And so to be held as it not being wrong or taboo, like this is important part. And so the welcoming of that contribution to this group and to open up for that to be a part of it, I think is also the hallmark of what holds us uniquely, this group also, because there's so much healing to be had in that for us individually and as a collective. And so I'm just forever grateful, because there's many times I said, I don't channel, I don't see beings. What the hell am I doing here? And yet I can feel the energies and the light language is coming through. And there was never a make wrong of like, you're not enough, Jacquie, or you don't know how to do it right, or a catch up to us, or anything like that. And so sometimes I pop off and sometimes I stay on. And it's just been really, really an honor and a blessing. So I'd add that to this process, because I've watched this process, and this doesn't happen in other groups that I'm in. No. And this is the invitation.
We had a discussion once, and I'm watching the chat, and we had a discussion once amongst us, and we're like, did you know that people actually have normal childhoods with like supportive parents, and they have, like they go to school and they get regular food, and like no major trauma happens? We're like, whoa, is that even possible? Because I think there's a disproportionate amount of trauma that spiritually, people who are come to make a big change have to first clear their own selves. And I think, I came to this group fresh out of the suicide death of my husband. And I remember coming to this group and I just needed to cry. And I was like, don't cry, Nicole, don't cry. You're strong. You're cool. It's no problem. And I remember the first time I cried, and Angelica just holds it together. And she goes, all right, we need to support Nicole through a healing process. Remember that, Angelica? And I was like, these people actually care about me, and they love me, and they want to help me heal. And, one of my big teachers is Mary Magdalene. And, she teaches me so much about when we heal through ourselves, we're healing for the collective, right? So when we heal, I've healed major physical pain out of my body. The whole impetus of my spiritual journey was to heal physical pain, like so many of you guys, right? Like it's some kind of pain. It's emotional pain, it's physical pain, it's emotional pain. For me, healing my physical body was the big impetus. And I just kind of had to stay present with this idea, like whatever I'm doing is not just for me, it's for the collective. And that's what I feel with this group is like, even though we are healing each other, it's like when we become clearer, more conscious beings, we can channel more energy, we can improve the grid lines, we can make it more possible for other humans to transmute and integrate more easily. And I think when I think about what we do, that's, as individuals, one of my favorite things to do is just to go into the bush and hike. Like tonight I hiked for an hour and a half before I came here. And I'm like, I'm encoding the earth with my energy, and I'm in a conversation, and I'm a portal between the earth and the sky world, and whatever I'm doing, even though it's unconscious maybe, is important. And I think sometimes working with this group helps bring the conscious to the unconscious. So I'll say, this week I felt really whatever it was. And Melissa will say, I was having the same thing. And Jacquie will say, I am too. And so I think it attenuates us to our collective nature as a group, but also there are collective vibes right now. Like, there is a war, maybe that's, happening. And sometimes we'll feel that as a group and we'll say, I really felt sleepy this week. And I really felt tired. And we'll say, well, that's because of this. And it'll help us piece things together. And for me, it's the validation piece is really important, but also the support piece. And also just to say to anybody who is transmuting major trauma in your life, it's important. You can do it. Keep going. And the pain that we transmute through these human bodies is so transformational. The work that we do is so much bigger than just our human selves. These human bodies, it's so much bigger, especially right now at this, time that we're floating through the photon belt and we're getting ready for this next big shift. It's exciting.
Nicole, I have a question for the panel. You're all ladies are walk-ins, and I was wondering, when, even as a child or in midlife, when the walk-in happens, do you come in with previous memories as well and retain the ones that you have within this body avatar?
I think Angelica has the most probably dramatic walk-in story. I would say that I didn't, like these women, I didn't really know that I was a walk-in until I had a dream, or I had a dream that told me that I was a walk-in. And what I was told was I met a man in black in the subway. So the subway, right, for me is always like I'm in underground portals or I'm in a space place. And he said, you're going to a place where people are sleeping. They don't know that they're sleeping. They don't know that this is a virtual reality. They think it's real, but it's not real. And he said, when you're going to go, it's going to feel like a lot of time has passed, but it's not very much time at all. And so I feel like Nicole the whole way through. I feel more like a soul upgrade where I just keep getting more and more of myself piled on. But I think Angelica, I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing, but she had such a dramatic walk-in where she was carrying multiple identities at once. And I just want to preface this for her. It's so shocking to me to hear the story. Like, she had to relearn how to do things to be like, okay, Angelica knows how to do this, or Grace knows how to do this. And I just like just going through the motions. Angelica, I don't know if you want to share that.
I just, before you go, Angelica, I just wanted to say, when I was listening to Angelica earlier, I may be wrong, but it sounded like Angelica had like a braided walking experience where you have like 2, 3. Am I right on that, or am I like in the left field there?
No, you're totally on point.
All right, right on. I know something.
Yeah, thank you for that. Sometimes I use more of the terminology and sometimes I don't. But the terminology can help us understand what's happening. I tend to now, recently just refer to it as multidimensional integration, because I feel like things are shifting and I'm being shown things quite often. And so I'm not as attached to any one label. But as things were happening, the labels did help because I didn't understand. So I'm happy to share. I would say to speak to the past life memories or like consciousness, like what is left of or what comes with the walk-in consciousness. For me, it felt a lot like if you've ever had a past life regression and you're shown a glimpse of that life, maybe a scene or something that happened. I was shown a lot of scenes. And I also, through my first walk-in was more gradual, and that can be something that happens where it's very subtle and the person may not even know that it's happening until they look back a few years later and then they see all the signs and realize that something changed. So that was my first one, was like that. And then my second one was very abrupt and very obvious. And with my second one, I had more of like a shamanic death experience where I was in bed almost 24/7. only getting up to eat and go to the restroom. And I didn't drive for quite a while. And I quit my job, and it was just full on like, all right, this is happening. And I had gotten a little bit of a forewarning a few months prior, but because my knowledge was so thin at that point, I didn't really understand what my guides were telling me. They told me a few months prior to 2020 that I would have 3 star beings merge with my consciousness. And I almost laughed at it, because I was like, I remember writing it down in my notebook and just going, whatever that means, and almost just tossing it to the side, putting it in my drawer and moving on. And little did I know that they were serious and it was really going to happen. And, play on the word serious, because they're Syrian star beings. So that's a bigger part of my consciousness, or at least a bigger part of my experience in integrating my multidimensional consciousness, would be the perspective of 3 different star beings. But one in particular really was like, if you can imagine what it would be like to be an extraterrestrial on Earth and never having been here before. That's what it was like. And my guides use the term consciousness transference. And I was listening to Arcturus Ra a little bit before when he spoke, and he spoke of not people, but extraterrestrials being in, I don't remember the term he used, but I would call it almost like a chamber, or like an avatar where they're in stasis. That's what he said, stasis. And so that extraterrestrial being is in stasis while they send their consciousness here. Sometimes I don't know how literal that is. I get the sense that sometimes it is more literal, and sometimes it's more of a metaphor for how the consciousness is moving between my human self and my galactic self. But they did specifically use the phrase consciousness transference. And the feeling that I get is like just a big chunk of consciousness just downloads into my consciousness. And when that happened initially, I saw the world completely differently. I remember looking at cars on the road and just looking at them. I was very much like, I held it together as much as I could, but inside, I was looking at those things like a 3-year-old probably, or a 2-year-old that's just discovering the world. And having been, I know that part of myself was trained, so to speak, to come here. But it's just like reading from a book and then going into the field, right? The book training is just not the same as the real thing. So when I got here, when I had my walk-in experience, I was almost like in a state of shock and wonder. And one of my mentors used a term one time about like how babies, when they explore the world, they're in this state of ecstatic bliss when they're touching things and smelling things. And I really had to acclimate here. It was a very sensory experience, and I was more sensitive to my surroundings, noise, light, smells, and specifically, I feel to mention metal. I was very sensitive to metal. I still am, and I only want certain metals around me. And I had memories of the types of metal that are in other dimensions. It's just different. But anyway, I would have memories of things, of home, and I would see things on Earth that would make me think of that. And it was a little bit confusing. And I'll just think of some other examples. In terms of like the dimensional shift, I do remember it felt so slow here. So it was like going into slow motion to come into a human body and be here. And I remember looking at a wooden table and just thinking, it's so slow. So whereas in some of the other dimensions, things are more fluid. So I still had memories of it. There was this contrast between what I remembered and then trying to make sense of why Earth is the way it is. you know, watching cars go down the street and just observing that they still have cars here, and just all kinds of funny observations. Observing that we spend a lot of our time going to the grocery store, and that there's like 10 different kinds of everything, probably 50 different kinds of everything. And this galactic self is very much also here to learn. So just as I'm learning from her as a soul aspect, she's learning from me. So she's getting to see things through my eyes, and she loves it. I love it. And finally, I'm more integrated now. But for a while, a good 8 months, probably, it was very in a very intense integration. So I'm just gonna see if there's anything more on the consciousness. I definitely, it's still like little glimpses. It's not like I know I could answer like a bunch of questions, but it's strange. It's a strange feeling of even remembering further past lives or other lives connected to the galactic life. So like remembering other lives on Sirius B. So it just, you know, it's exponential. Our souls are multidimensional. So yeah. So yeah, happy to share.
I want to share too. I have seen my body, my big blue lady body. I think it's Arcturian, and she is also in a chamber. And my little daughter sometimes comes to see her, and it's just sad. It's like, "Where's mom gone?" And it's really validating to hear people sharing that, because it's another thing. You're like, "Am I just making this up?" I just also want to say I had, because consciousness is funny, right? Like, we're multi-dimensional beings with a lot of consciousness. And I had an experience once where I did too much spiritual upgrading in a too short of a period of time. And maybe you guys have had this experience. I jumped too many timelines and I lost track of Earth, what Earth was supposed to be like, because the physical realities in Earth change. You know, that's called the Mandela effect, but it's the same idea as Angelica. And I think, like, the idea is, I like Angelica's terminology, multidimensional integration, because it doesn't really need a label. We want labels. We want the periodic table of elements: hydrogen, helium, lithium, you know, like that's how humans think and characterize. But I think it's so much bigger than we know. I remember one time just coming back from this, and the changes were happening over a 2-month period. And then I just realized that even the place that I thought Earth was in originally, you know, in the spiral arm of the galaxy, we had moved to a totally different place, and all of the maps had changed, and colors that I thought were a particular color had totally changed. And that was really disabling. And I don't know if anyone out there has been through this experience before, but when you lose track of your physical reality, it's tough, you know, and you want to tell everyone. You're like, did you know that, you know, all the I'm trying to like explain to my friends all of these changes, and they're like, no, Nicole, it's always been like this. And I'm like, and you got to watch yourself, right? You got to watch yourself and go, if you go further with this, you're going to end up in the psych ward. You have to just shut up and do it on your own, because no one can really talk to you about this stuff, because it's so weird. And you know, when I was told that I was, you know, that humans think this is so real, that this is the real reality, it's fascinating to me now that, you know, when you're doing this kind of work, you know, Minna, for example, Amanda has a lot of gifts. Like, she can bend spoons, and she can do things that like are beyond our ideas of reality, and what the physical rules of reality are. And I think that's, as we move into these different dimensional realities, we move into higher vibrations. The physical is not as real as we think it is. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on their walk-in experience, but that's one thing that I've learned big time. It's not as real as you think it is.
I would continue from that. So my experience started because I'm a lawyer. The first thing I heard in my head, and that was in English, it was transformation, and it was just out of the blue. And I said, who said that? And even it was the transformation, and I didn't know even the meaning for the word. And the next thing that came, that this is the secret stuff, so don't tell anybody. And that was a very good piece of advice at that point, because if I had told that kind of people to other people, I'd be locked up for the rest of my life in some kind of a hospital. But eventually it started to be as a wormhole experience for me. And then the very next morning, I saw the light on the surface of the lake, and I heard the voice, "Go to the light." So that was the first time I jumped into water. And I was pretty sure that I'm not coming back from the bottom of the water, from the lake. And but I was very disappointed, because I came up to the surface again, and I thought that, oh shit, this is the same place. But when I just started to walk back to the shore, I realized that I was able to see the auras of the trees. I was able to hear what the birds and the other animals they were thinking about. I was able to see beforehand what was the newspaper articles in that day's paper. And I got all kinds of new abilities emerge at the same time. So of course I was just quite shocked that phase, but I was in some kind of anti-gravitation field, because other people who were in my field, they were just like in a slow motion movie, and they couldn't do anything out of normal stuff. And some people, my parents, they were at the same building, and they were just smirked like into the walls. They couldn't talk at all. They were just like they weren't there, because they weren't in my dimension at all, and I weren't theirs. And all the total, it was 1 year that I was totally in 2 dimensions. During the daytime, I was a lawyer negotiating huge international deals. And when I went back home, I was totally doing something else that I couldn't tell anybody. And I wasn't afraid, because I was taken care of, and I had these they were tall light beings, and they just taught me like a toddler all light language, all speak, all telepathic means to communicate. And they had all the patience with me. They were just teaching me that I was able to understand them. And they were holding me because I couldn't walk myself during that year. But nobody else knew anything what was going inside me. But the only a frightening experience for me, it was just after a year having that kind of life, which wasn't any kind of human life, but I was so drawn to that, and they were so in me, so in my energy field, that it was just amazing time. I cannot even describe that. But after a year, I felt that they left me. And I was shouting to them that, you can't leave me here. You have been here with me for a whole year. I cannot stand without you. And I felt that they really left my energy field, and they left me by myself. And I was yelling there and saying that you have to take me. I don't want to stay here in this avatar body. I couldn't stand that. But while I was shouting that for a couple of hours, and then they were next to me, and they were holding my hand and saying, we are right here, dear. We have not gone anywhere. And ever since, they are all there. They are all the time with me. So that's my comfort. That's my family. And all the integration that I have been doing ever since, these 2 dimensions have come one. And especially when the COVID time started, I was just, yes, I have been experiencing this already. I know already this time is about to emerge. So, and these ladies came along at the same time. But before that, I didn't talk my experiences to anybody. I was just holding them in my heart, because the spirit world said to me, this is the secret between us. So I have to thank the spirit world and all the light beings, the galactic beings, that I'm here and I feel it, because they told me that I'm like a second incarnation in the same body. So I went away, I had the near-death experience. And the thing that I came back, I had the option if I come to this body or not. And when I said, oh, okay, I may have some kind of responsibilities to do here. So I might come back to my body. And that was amazing, because they were telling me that's a piece of the music, and that was a Bach's Brandenburg Concerto number 3, and part 3. That was the tune that I came into my body, and that was the music has been very important to me afterwards, and that's the resonance what we are having, because it's all about the resonance and the frequency. And there was something in that little piece of Bach, because it just the music world doesn't know, it just da da da, and it was the whole part, and nobody has ever known why Bach has composed that kind of just a few notes for the whole part. But for me, it was just the music that I was able to come into this avatar body. Thank you.
Yeah. What Minna was just saying actually struck a chord within me. I can feel the emotion coming up. When I came in at 3 years old, you know, what does a 3-year-old do? What does a young child do when they come in? And I remember being so upset that they left me. You know, they just left me, and I was in this trauma-ridden body, and it's like, you know, what am I doing here? You know, and who does a little one have to talk to about that? You know, how does a little one express that? So I didn't, and I spent most of my time outside the body. I was outside the body. I was like everywhere. I had 2 dragons protecting me. I was on ships. You know, my world, you know, in my physical world, I would read stories like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That was real to me. Those were real, because those were the places I was going. In the physical body was not. And that's something I want to do. I was a teacher for many years, and I want to help those kids that are coming in, kids that want to talk about some of these things that they can't. What I came to understand was this soul exchange. I was tasked with clearing the trauma from the family line, and that's what I said I would do. And when I've done that, I've actually done that now with the help of these women, and now I can be me. So it's almost like the walk-in is happening again, because now all of that's done. I did what I said I was going to do, and now these other experiences start happening. And then there's the Sarah side, where I do have Sarah's memories, you know, memories. But yeah, it's different, but it's, you know, what does a child do? And I feel it's important for us, as, you know, conversations and topics that are coming up around this. How are we there for our children in these ways?
I would like to jump in and speak to that. So something that I didn't share about my backstory is that I spent 12 years as a language arts teacher working with young people ages 12 to 18. And it's still very much on my heart to work with young starseeds specifically. And so that's something that's, you know, Melissa and I talk about that a lot, and it hasn't come to fruition yet, but we're just setting that intention to be led to where we're supposed to be. But I wanted to just mention, as well as Minna was talking about that feeling of like being left behind by our star family, or missing home. It's that a lot of starseeds feel that. And just wanted to mention that even though my walk-in experiences were, to my knowledge, not that long ago, within the last 5 years, I do remember being a teenager and specifically wanting to go home. And I would be confused because I thought, well, I am home. Why do I want to go home? And I didn't understand why I felt that way. But it was a very intense feeling. And now looking back, I wonder if I did, have that more expanded consciousness at one point, and then coming into this avatar body, it's, we forget, and then we're programmed. So I had all of that religious programming and all of that schooling and everything. So, but there was still something there. And I do remember writing a poem in college, and I remember the one line was like, "Where was I before?" Meaning before birth. And that wasn't my frame of reference as being raised in a Protestant Christian home. Reincarnation wasn't even on my radar. So, but even at that point, I just had the sense that I was somewhere else before coming here. So, yeah, I had that same, well, I don't want to say same, but I had a certain longing or a feeling like I came from somewhere else. And, but yes, now I can also speak to really feeling more integrated and complete and surrounded by loving beings at all times, especially all of you.
Jacquie, I'm calling on Jar, loving
Sure.
Jacquie.
Sure. Yeah. So, as I mentioned, I don't recall my walk-in experience, but there was a series of events and people that I interacted with that led me to feeling that there was resonance having had that experience. So, I don't have an experience to draw from as far as what I remember or don't. Except that I've landed here with all of you. And that was one meeting that I went to, that walk-in meeting that we had, that 70, 100 people on it. And out of that came all of you. And so for me, it was, yeah, so I don't have a response specific to that. But I know I'm where I'm supposed to be.
I want to
Thank you,
tell
ladies.
can I, Omar, before you jump in, I just want to say one thing, which is we also had some hesitancy or some reluctance about being public about this stuff because I work as a lawyer. I teach indigenous legal traditions at the local law school. I'm pretty well known as a lawyer, and I'm like, okay. And then, we were talking about this tonight, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to manifest a timeline that if one of my law students finds this, it's going to be awesome for them. It's going to be exactly what they need to hear. Or if Nicole becomes a judge, one day it's just going to be because the world needs a highly conscious, spiritually integrated judge who happens to believe she's from Arcturus, because the world is changing. And I think Angelica is saying this and Melissa is saying this. And one of our big discussions is, how do we anchor this in our everyday? Right? So in my practice as a lawyer, I just made up this name for myself. I call myself a lawyer and a wellness facilitator. And I just carry this vibration of confidence that now this is what the world needs. So I got invited, this is really exciting, to provide a meditation for the Law Society of Ontario, which is our provincial regulator of lawyers. So it's a mental health and wellness conference, and I'm going to be guiding a meditation to all of these lawyers across Ontario. And I'm like, Holy Spirit, activate, right? Like, thank you, Creator, for sending me down into this body, into Canada, into an Indigenous woman in a space where it's cool to be spiritual, right? Like, it's a very safe incarnation. But for many, for these women and for many of us out there, it's not apparent how we move forward as spiritually integrated people. And I think that's a challenge. And often, sometimes we're tired too, right? We're like, I'm too tired. And I think that's because you also have to give yourself credit for the work that you're doing while you're sleeping or while you're meditating. Your work is not just happening in the physical present. I am, I'm out in the world being a lawyer or cross country skiing or whatever it is that I'm doing. I'm also working in other dimensions at all times. And so if you're tired, especially right now, you also have to remember that, and to say, like, we're here to anchor this world, this new consciousness, this new place, to make it safe for the humans to move into the next dimensional reality, or however we want to think about this. But it is happening. And even though we may not see space for ourselves yet in these institutions, we really see a lot of evidence of the institutions crumbling. And so it's important for us to brainstorm and think and collaborate and create a connective, collaborative kind of vision of what this can look like. What will education look like? This is one of our common conversations. What will I teach my students about how to be more emotional lawyers? How do we respect our clients' spiritual beliefs? How do we be a more spiritual lawyer? And these, at least where I'm at, are conversations that are safe to have. And I feel that's just evidence of our shift, of our collective shift. So I feel excited. I feel excited and I feel supported, and I feel that we are integrating this stuff. This is really happening now.
That is so beautiful. And thank you for sharing, ladies. And I was just going to say that I think the world can probably use more judges like you, Nicole, and more teachers like Angelica, because, excuse me, talking all day. We need more people like yourselves. You're consciously aware. You're aware of yourselves. You're aware of your ecosystem. You're aware of your environment, and you're aware of feelings. Right? Most people are just aware of like lower emotional feelings, and that's it. It's kind of where they tap out. And I'm so happy to see that there's emotion within your voice, and I can literally see it on you. Right? So we need more people like yourselves. And a lot of people in the chat rooms are saying, kudos to you for doing this, publicly. Thank you for, coming out and doing this. You've raised the notch on the frequency level a little bit more. Just constant communication like that in the chat room, just really, really amazing. And, they're right. We do need this. We need to bring this out in public, because we just can't, just be hiding in shadows anymore. Right? We need to illuminate those shadows, and we need to confront those shadows, and we need to bring this into the public so people can become aware. And as I understand, people have tried to make this awareness to this a long time ago. It was a couple of months ago, I was watching, at random, an old show from Unsolved Mysteries, and they were talking about walk-ins. And this was like in the late 80s and early 90s. And I was like, oh my God, I have to watch this. And I started watching. And I started looking for more, and there was nothing. And I was like, oh my God, that's like really, really, it's terrible, because the awareness was just beginning to come there, and then they squashed it. And then now here we are again, going at it round two to bring awareness. So I'm, so glad that you ladies agreed to come on here and share your experiences with us. Now, I have this really great question from John Johnson, and he's asking, does each soul within our soul in other dimensions have separate identities?
Yeah. That's been my experience, and it sounds like that's been the experience of a lot of the ladies in our group. But to me, it feels like linking up more with the perspective of the oversoul, or more of an avatar consciousness, where I understand I have multiple soul identities.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got a question for Jacquie. And sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
I just want to add on, one of the things that we get shown a lot is like, we'll be participating on a spider web.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be able to tune into, well, obviously Melissa has the connection to the Sarah life and Yeshua and Mary, and that's really helpful for us because we all kind of have a Mary. But we'll be able to see ourselves in different aspects, because there's no such thing as time, right? And the other thing I love to say is, like, this is an infinite universe, so anything that we can imagine is actually possible, right? Because everything is true. And so it's really fascinating to think about it in that way, that we have so much more power to access than we actually know or activate at this time. But definitely, we go into past lives. I forget whose life that was, the pregnancy. Angelica? Yeah, can we talk about that? Angelica, can you talk about that? Do you feel comfortable?
Well, you feel free. What's your purpose? Just to explain that it was another soul aspect life.
Because,
we
and there's
saw.
a complete personality, and there's a complete participation in these things, right? Like, but what's interesting is we can see it, and I think that's where we all have the capacity to do. So this idea of, yes, you do have souls and they do exist with multiple identities, I think sometimes that becomes illuminated through the processes.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to the, maybe everyone watching today would already know this, but I do feel to share that it can sound like multiple personalities, but it's not. So, but I did have a good hour of my life that I thought I might have multiple personalities or dissociative identity disorder. And looking back, I found that I didn't, I could not check all of the criteria to qualify for that. So it's not the same. One difference is that there's no loss of time in terms of there's no like switch and then losing time between like, let's say that I'm embodying more of my Syrian aspect. While I'm embodying that aspect or accessing that consciousness, I'm not losing my sense of time. I am still aware of where I am and what I'm doing. And, as I walk to the grocery store and I'm more of my everyday consciousness, I still remember what happened the day before, even as I was accessing my galactic consciousness the day before. And it's more, it's less, I don't know how to say, disjointed. It's more integrated. As the more I've integrated, it's just more integrated, if that makes sense. So I might have a thought that's like from my galactic consciousness, and then, but I'm still just being a human too. So yeah. I mean, that's a whole other, I'm watching the chat, and that's a whole other topic of discussion that I'm not sure that I can speak on right now as to what's happening with some people, and but there could be a connection that they're tapping into their other lives. So well, I'm just, as I have the floor, I just am aware of our time, and I know that when we all come together to practice, we usually do a group meditation and transmission, and it's usually a little bit lengthy. So I know that that's part of our intention was to bring through a transmission for y'all and invite you into our space. So just throwing it out there if we're ready for that, or.
Yeah, Angelica, you totally read my mind. And just before we get to that, there was a question here for Jacquie, and it's from Ree, and she asks, Jacquie, what is consciousness parenting?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. Well, it's a journey. As my consciousness has up-leveled, I continue to see my children in a different light, and I parent from a different place each time. I see as within, so without, and ever improving on it's not even improving, it's the perspective of what's important and who these beings are. I see them anew every time I have an experience. And so much of my journey has been separate from my children, because it's been so swift and so provocative and profound. And over the last year or two, I've integrated that, and I've really celebrated with them without over casting the spiritual place that they need to be, but integrating it in who I am and how we interact as a family, and just being really aware and watching and listening as the bright lights that they are, that they have so much magic for me. I mean, as a parent, we learn from our children, but when you are consciously aware and see them as the God beings they are, like, it is just magical. It is magical and so humbling. So humbling. And so that's what I would say to it. And I've watched their lives completely shift. And yeah, I have one child who has been my greatest teacher. Yeah, so that's what I would say to conscious parenting. And it's such a joy, yeah, to be in this place and parent with a little more ease.
Thank you for sharing, Jacquie.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, if you guys want to get into your meditation, we'll sit here and join you.
The only thing, I was a little bit worried about the feedback because we did have problems when we were all on before. So let's just see how that goes.
It's sounding okay to me now. So to help everyone prepare, we will just start to go into meditation, and we invite you to do the same. We are intending to bring through whatever light language, light code transmissions would be for the highest good and highest good of all right now. Even if it's just sitting here meditating together, you might find that you might see through your third eye something similar to what we are describing, or feel something similar to what we're describing. You might feel emotions move, energies shift. We just invite you as well to set your own intention, and we'll begin.
Much celebration, so much celebration around us.
You feel your galactic self.
Some of you who are listening may be receiving a heart chakra activation. You may be feeling strong emotions. You may feel the need to discharge through tears or in other ways. Just welcoming this new energy in through your heart center, feeling yourself opening up. Very good. Receiving, feeling safe and supported.
Yes, beloved. I am so happy to be here in this context. It is not often that I, Yeshua, can step outside the box that I have been placed in. But here in this moment, with family, am I able to be seen as father, as man, as a sexual being. This was who I am, who I was. This is what will be coming through. This is my wish. This is who I am. This root signifies the power of the circle, my circle that I surrounded myself with. The circle is the key. It is the key to your transformation. So I celebrate, I rejoice in the circle. and the transmission that will be coming through. Feel like we're opening you up to the circles that you are meant to be in. Allow, open. Watch for the circles to open as you synchronicity step in.
You may experience this as an invitation to invite in your own galactic families,
Yes,
your own helpers, your own supporters.
yes.
And open up your heart,
Krishna.
your third eye, and it is that you're receiving.
Krishna. Yes. Many galactic beings here. Yes,
Many
yes,
galactic
yes,
beings
yes,
here.
yes. Krishna. Ooh. I feel
Been for too long under the veil of forgetfulness, under the veil of in our ability to connect to these higher dimensions or these parallel dimensions or these other aspects of ourselves. And the truth is the power is completely within you. The projection is
This manted beings present. Someone watching will be contacted by their manted family.
strong magic. Yes, Melissa often channels the mantis beings for us. She's receiving a transmission through the mantis for us. Yes. It's wonderful to be present with all you, my family, and my friends.
Receive, activate, integrate, all that I am. Clearing.
We watch the progression of the humans through this time of evolution, of consciousness, and opening.
Out, old programming, towards attachment,
I'm feeling nauseous. That means I'm helping somebody release the old, release.
Yes. So if anyone is carrying strong emotion and they're transmuting, invite yourself to breathe through this process. There's been a clearing happening since you started.
We are seeing so many races all over the galaxy because all eyes are on us right now because we are all one, and all the races, the easy races, have sent their own ambassadors to the planet Earth to play this game. What is right now going on Earth? They all are involved. We are not separated from other relatives. They are us and we are them. So as we think we are here by ourselves and experience these times to shift to the other, to the new timelines, to the new consciousness shift, the evolution, what's going on. The others are assisting us because we are the brothers and sisters, and they are in us. We are the ETs. We are all the races of the galaxy in these avatar bodies, and they are able to use and express their wills, their deeds in our avatars when we are open to that, to show all the love and the essence all over.
There is no fear. There is only love. There is no fear. There is only love.
I feel like this is actually rewriting some timeline. This circle activation.
Yes, we are practically jumping now. Shishuna Matila, Over Makaya, Bruno Tekiala, Akiela, Aruna Akiela, After the Teala, Ashuna Kamiala, Akiela, and Putari.
Yes, that's right. Trusting your ability to come with, trusting your sovereignty,
circle is the base of the future. Government,
yes. That's right.
corporation. Is not the same as it has been, but circle, no hierarchy. Everyone has a say. Education, circle. What? No longer top down. Democratic education.
I see the audience of what we are having exactly this moment, and our audience is all spirit teams together, and we are together raising the vibration of the earth vibration in order to ascend to the new timeline for peace and coexistence. Nevertheless, races, we don't have a drop anymore. We are so ready to see and meet our relatives from other dimensions. We are all here, and this is a huge celebration. And this is going to shift the consciousness of the whole planet.
Okay.
We're doing it together.
As well as the galactic realm, we also have the elemental realm. There's going to be a transmission from the elemental realm.
Mother Earth,
the elementals are part of the circles. We are part of the circles, as is Gaia herself. We would like a say in what happens on this planet.
Yes, also welcoming the animal realms.
Circles include Gaia. Circles include the elemental realm, the plant realm. Circles include all. Everyone has a voice. all
Shasha.
being. Shaka opena
Nya ha
kaite.
te ke inki i.
Tana. Shu, shu, shu. Koyatea. Koyatea.
Activations around the throat and the heart chakra.
Yeah, very good. Releasing through the back heart chakra. Releasing old energy, whatever it is you've been carrying. Inability to receive love, fear of being loved, fear of who you really are. Good, releasing old patterns. Yeah, let them go. It's safe now to let them go. It's safe now to let them go.
Cleansing of the pineal.
Yes.
The very ancient guardian race has gathered around us, and they are ready to download humankind's new codes. As we are ready, we are coming from a childhood phase into our adult humanity, and they are ready to download a new code for our future.
Toete naka tuete aka enumana shtae koete na mai kaya nana moete ata una sta kuite nua kaya te momosta
inata.
koea
Yeah.
te anasha
Yeah.
ua
Diamond light codes for those who are ready. Yes, there we go. There we go. Beautiful. Rama,
Parece kuyata.
I receive. I love Rama.
I'm feeling a little of a blue avian presence.
Yeah.
Soul memories activation. Soul memories. Yes. Yes. Installing. Downloading. DNA activating. Yes. I remember.
I'm connected. Yes, I know who I really am. I know where I come from. I know who my family is. I'm sure of what I'm doing. I'm a sovereign being. I guide with love.
I clear all that is not me.
Yeah, I release old paradigms and biases.
Clear. Ha!
Yes. Thank you. I release everything that came into my awareness that served me for the place that I was at the time. Yes. Feeling now just held in a very sacred and loving energy, the divine feminine, balancing with the divine masculine, feeling yourself cradled in new loving energy, supporting you in whatever it is you move into next, trusting that everything is in alignment for you, for us.
So much coming. So much that is new. Old, ancient, yet new again.
Yes.
So much. Light conception.
Realigning to higher purpose. Yes. Remembering. Remembering.
Yes. Yes, it's safe to remember.
Ancient spider races are back. As we do this, they're weaving the new timelines. Everything we do gets woven into the new. The spiders come, they weave our creations, our energies, our thoughts into the new. All lifetimes, all timelines are happening simultaneously.
Yes. I was seeing multiple mirrors.
Yes.
Yet
And acknowledging everyone who is listening and participating here with us today with so much gratitude for your participation, for your energy, for whatever it is this transmission brings through for you.
Celebration.
Yes.
Celebration, yes.
So much to
Unification.
celebrate.
Yes, thank you to Omar, especially for bringing us together in this important way. Gratitude for safe places. Gratitude for safe places.
So it begins.
Yes.
The key has been turned.
You are equipped.
We are in this together. This beautiful transmutation is our collective journey.
Yes. And back to Yeshua. I did not do it alone. I could never have done it alone.
Yes. Yes.
My circles were my strength. Mary was my strength among others, but the circle was where the power lies. Each of us played a role in that timeline. Each of us brought through a piece of the white buffalo. It is your turn now. I pass the baton. It is your time. I am with you, watching, loving, celebrating, holding, crying, healing. We walk together, for there is no time. Imagine I hold all of you with me as I walked through my journey. I was aware of you in this moment. I held you with me as I was on the cross. I invited you to experience my body while on the cross.
Yes.
You have always been with me, and I with you. Never forget. Shana.
With gratitude. There it is, folks. Lovers, interdimensional beings. There's not a lot we can say other than this is what we've discovered together, and we love you all. You know, we have nothing else to say other than that. I mean, Nicole has nothing else to say other than that. We love you all, and whatever it is, wherever we're going, I feel good about it. And thank you to everybody for being with us.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. So much love.
Drink some water.
Take a nap. You're probably going to need a nap.
Energy that we are just all, we are just online right now. We are just all together, and we are sharing the energy together wherever we are. But we are just in a united field of consciousness right now, and we are raising our vibration, all of us. Thank you for coming, and thank you that we are able to be here tonight with you. Thank you.
Well, ladies, thank you very much. Trying to recover from that. That was intense. That was deep. I can't say I've experienced anything like that before. When you started, it was like I got hit with energy. It was like a semi-truck energy. It just engulfed me, and my entire body, the hair on my body just stood up. It was tingling, like literally, like everywhere. So much so that I had to push my chair back and stand up and just start going like this. It was just so intense. I was like, oh my God. I stood back for a couple of minutes, sat down, closed my eyes, started breathing, and really tried to absorb that. But that was, in the beginning, it was extremely overwhelming. And I had to just, wow. I can't say I've ever experienced something like that before. Thank you. That was incredible.
It was wild. And Nicole was talking about your stomach might hurt a little bit, and she literally called it as it was happening for me. And then so many things were just, it was really calm. And then it got really intense. I started seeing flashes of so many different things, and I was like, I don't know. I have to sit back and like really think about what I saw, because it was just really fast. And then it kind of crescendoed, and I was back at ease again. But I felt like I learned something from it, and I don't know what yet, but I have to figure it out and really sit in like a deep meditation and try and sift through the images that I saw. It was really wild. It was wild.
Can I say that I want to say one thing, which is I feel shy about this, but we do this together. We've never done this publicly. I don't know how this works. I don't really know what this is. Sometimes we feel self-conscious about this because we're like, don't really know, but it's just owning up to your galactic kind of like, or whatever this is, to just say it's something that's bigger than us, and that it's a collective clearing process. And we've gone into places and things and we're like, can we really do this? And I remember one thing in particular, I was a little bit scared. But we have to trust that we have energy that runs through us, that the source is not us. We're just purely channels, you know, and we have to just trust into that. So I feel very happy that people felt like they were a part of our process. The process that we it's not ours. It's that runs through the group that we've been drawn to be a part of.
No, I just want to say thank you to everybody who came along and did that. That was absolutely wonderful. I picked up on so many different vibrations at once. It was like all of these different languages coming in and giving me little flashes of, okay, you've got to put that over there. You're going to have that, use that later on. It was just like illumination going on. I loved it, totally loved it. And thank you all for, the courage, the acknowledgement you've learned to give yourself. You've remembered how to give it back to yourself. And it's a process. And so thank you to all of you for coming along and sharing with us. Totally appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. People in the audience, like, this is a true symphony. Just so many beautiful comments, poetry in motion. Wow.
I like the galactivation. That's a good comment I saw pop up. It's like a galactivation. That's pretty cool.
Amazing. Just truly, truly amazing. I'm so much gratitude for you ladies. I'm so happy that you agreed to come here and share publicly and really take us through this process and show us, because a lot of people, I would imagine, are wondering how this type of process would take place, how channeling would happen, and how group channeling would happen. I'm so happy that you showed us that on how it's done. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry. I just have, we can all do this. We can all do this. So I just felt I had to say that.
No,
I
you're
wish we
absolutely
could end
right.
each night like this. You kidding me? That would be the. I mean, I'm so pumped up right now, and this is like we were tired today. I know we were,
Yeah,
but
I
I
know.
am like, I don't know if I'm going to bed tonight. That's how pumped up I am right now.
I just got like my third wind of the day. It was the 2 stretches today, and then now this one, and I'm good to go for another 12. What do you say, Rob?
I'm down to climb. Let's get it, bud.
You're a trooper, brother. Thank you very much, ladies.